The Fine Line, a tale of ethics and morality in gray areas. The sun was setting, and the sky was a mix of orange and purple hues. Rachel walked down the dimly lit alley, looking for the man she had been sent to meet. She was on a mission to retrieve an important document for her boss, a wealthy businessman who had no qualms about operating in the gray areas of the law. She saw the man she was looking for leaning against a brick wall, smoking a cigarette. He looked up as she approached, and his eyes flicked over her. Rachel felt a shiver run down her spine as he smirked. "Hey there, sweetheart," he drawled, taking another drag from his cigarette. "What can I do for you?" "I'm here for the document," Rachel said, her voice firm. The man's smirk widened. "And who sent you?" "That's none of your business," Rachel snapped, her hand inching towards the small gun tucked into her waistband. The man chuckled. "Easy there, honey. No need to get feisty." "I've got the document right here." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, holding it out to her. Rachel took the envelope, her fingers brushing against his as she did. She fought the urge to recoil from the touch, reminding herself that this was just business. She opened the envelope and quickly scanned the contents, making sure it was the right document. "Everything seems to be in order," she said, tucking the envelope into her jacket pocket. "Thank you." The man stepped closer to her, his breath hot on her neck. "You know, I could help you out with some other things too, if you're interested," he murmured. Rachel stiffened. "I'm not interested," she said sharply, taking a step back. The man shrugged, his eyes glinting in the fading light. "Suit yourself," he said, turning and walking away. Rachel watched him go, feeling a mix of relief and disgust. She knew that she had just skirted the line between right and wrong, but she also knew that she had done what was necessary to complete the task at hand. She sighed and headed back to her car, eager to deliver the document to her boss and be done with it. As Rachel drove back to the city, she couldn't help but replay the encounter in her mind. She knew that what she had done was morally questionable, but she also knew that it was necessary to get the job done. It was a fine line to walk, and she often found herself struggling to stay on the right side of it. As she pulled up to her boss's building, she steeled herself for the inevitable lecture that was sure to follow. She walked into the lobby, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and made her way to the elevator. "Rachel," her boss said as she stepped out of the elevator and into his office. "Did you get the document?" "Yes," Rachel said, handing over the envelope. "It's all there." Her boss nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good," he said finally. "You did well." Rachel felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had been afraid that he would reprimand her for the encounter with the man in the alley, but it seemed that he was pleased with the results. "Is there anything else you need me to do?" she asked, eager to get out of there. Her boss looked at her for a long moment before finally shaking his head. "No, that's all for now. You can go." Rachel nodded and turned to leave. As she walked out of the office, she felt a sense of unease settle in her stomach. She knew that she had crossed a line and that it was only a matter of time before it caught up with her, but she also knew that she couldn't back out now. She had come too far to turn back. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings and assignments. Rachel threw herself into her work, using it as a way to distract herself from the guilt that was eating away at her. She tried to push the encounter in the alley to the back of her mind, but it seemed to be constantly lurking just beneath the surface. One day, as she was leaving her boss's office, she overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. Her boss was on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. "Yes, I understand," he was saying. "I'll take care of it." Rachel felt her heart race as she realized what he was talking about. She knew that her boss was involved in some shady dealings, but she had never been privy to the details. Now, it seemed that whatever it was had gone too far. She knew that she had to do something, but she didn't know what. She couldn't just walk away and pretend that nothing was happening, but she also couldn't risk putting herself in danger by confronting her boss directly. As she drove home that night, her mind was racing with possibilities. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of something dangerous, and she didn't know how to stop it. The next day, Rachel received a phone call from an unknown number. She hesitated before answering, her hand hovering over the button. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Rachel, it's me," a familiar voice said. Rachel felt a sense of relief flood through her as she recognized the voice. It was her former mentor, a retired spy who had taken her under his wing when she first started in the business. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. "I've been keeping an eye on you," her mentor said, "and I think it's time for us to have a chat." Rachel knew what he was talking about. She had always suspected that her mentor had been watching her, but she had never been sure. "Okay," she said, her heart racing. "Where do you want to meet?" "There's a cafe on 5th and Main," her mentor said. "Meet me there in an hour." Rachel agreed and hung up the phone. She felt a sense of trepidation as she drove to the cafe, wondering what her mentor had to tell her. As she stepped into the crowded cafe, she saw her mentor sitting at a table in the back. He looked up as she approached, his eyes taking her in. "Rachel," he said, nodding in greeting. "It's good to see you." "You too," Rachel said, taking a seat across from him. Her mentor looked at her for a long moment before finally speaking. "I've been keeping tabs on you," he said, "and I'm concerned about what I've seen." Rachel felt a knot form in her stomach as her mentor continued. "I know that you're working for someone who operates in the gray areas of the law," he said, "and I know that you've been doing things that make you uncomfortable." Rachel felt a sense of shame wash over her. She had always known that her mentor would disapprove of her current line of work, but hearing it out loud was still difficult. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mentor looked at her intently. "You have a choice," he said. "You can continue down this path, knowing that it's only a matter of time before it catches up with you, or you can choose to do the right thing, even if it's difficult." Rachel felt a sense of clarity settle over her. She knew what she had to do. "I want to do the right thing," she said firmly. Her mentor nodded in approval. "Good," he said. "But it won't be easy. You'll have to be careful and you'll have to be smart, but I believe that you can do it." Rachel felt a sense of determination well up inside her. She knew that it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that it was the right thing to do. Over the next few weeks, Rachel began to gather evidence of her boss's shady dealings. She worked quietly and methodically, careful not to attract any attention to herself. One day, as she was sitting in her office, she received an email from her boss. She opened it hesitantly, wondering what he could want. As she read the email, her heart sank. Her boss was onto her. He knew that she was gathering evidence, and he was threatening her if she didn't stop. Rachel felt a sense of panic wash over her. She knew that her boss wasn't someone to be messed with, and she didn't know what to do. That night, Rachel met with her mentor again. She told him everything, including the email from her boss. Her mentor looked at her thoughtfully. "You have a choice to make," he said. "You can either back down and let him win, or you can stand up to him and fight." Rachel knew what she had to do. She couldn't let her boss intimidate her. The next day, Rachel walked into her boss's office with a sense of determination. She had evidence of his illegal activities, and she was ready to turn him in. But as she opened her mouth to speak, her boss held up a hand to silence her. "I know what you're going to say," he said, "and I want you to know that I'm willing to make a deal." Rachel felt a sense of unease settle over her. She didn't know what her boss could possibly offer her that would make her compromise her morals. "What kind of deal?" she asked cautiously. Her boss leaned forward. "I can make all of this go away," he said. "All you have to do is walk away from this and never look back." Rachel felt a sense of disgust wash over her. She couldn't believe that her boss was trying to buy her off. "No deal," she said firmly. Her boss looked at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "I see," he said. "Well, I guess we'll have to do this the hard way." Rachel knew that she was in danger, but she also knew that she couldn't back down. She had to stand up for what was right, even if it meant putting herself in harm's way. As she left her boss's office, Rachel felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had made the right choice, even if it was the difficult one. The next few weeks were difficult for Rachel. She received threatening emails and phone calls, and she knew that her boss was watching her every move. But she also knew that she had the support of her mentor, and that gave her the strength to keep going. One day, As she was walking home from work, she saw a figure step out of the shadows. Her heart raced as she recognized her boss's enforcer. But as the enforcer approached her, he held out a hand. "I'm here to help you," he said. Rachel looked at the enforcer in surprise. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I mean that I've seen what my boss is capable of, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore," the enforcer said. "I want to help you bring him down." Rachel felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had never expected help to come from someone on the inside. Together, Rachel and the enforcer worked to gather evidence of her boss's illegal activities. They worked quickly and quietly, careful not to draw any attention to themselves. One day, they finally had enough evidence to take to the authorities. Rachel and the enforcer sat nervously in a conference room as they waited for the detectives to arrive. When the detectives finally walked in, Rachel felt a sense of anticipation and dread wash over her. She knew that this was the moment of truth. But as the detectives listened to their story and examined the evidence, Rachel felt a sense of hope. They were taking her seriously, and they were going to do something about it. Months later, Rachel sat in a courtroom as her boss was sentenced to years in prison for his crimes. She felt a sense of satisfaction wash over her as justice was finally served. As she walked out of the courtroom, Rachel felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had done the right thing, even if it had been difficult. Rachel knew that the line between ethics and morality wasn't always clear, but she also knew that it was important to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. As Rachel walked home, she saw a figure step out of the shadows. It was her mentor. "I'm proud of you," he said, a small smile on his face. Rachel felt a sense of gratitude well up inside her. Without her mentor's guidance and support, she never would have been able to do what she did. "Thank you," she said. "I couldn't have done it without you." Her mentor nodded. "Remember, Rachel, the fine line between ethics and morality is never easy to navigate. But as long as you always do what you believe is right, you'll never go wrong." Rachel smiled. She knew that her mentor was right. The path of morality and ethics wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it in the end.